Greetings everybody, and welcome back to the Lupine Logs Budget Battles, the show where we build a deck for $50 or less, and we take it to our own locals, where we battle other people with decks for $50 or less. As always, if you'd like to join us and both show up in this show and get to play some funny decks for a while, we are playing every Sunday at 7 p.m. CEST over on the Discord. The links are, as always, in the description. This week, we are bringing Melodious, a weird, I would like to call them combo, but they're not really, deck that kind of sets up a board that cannot be destroyed with a bunch of untargetable removal that is just on the verge of being really good. They have a lot of one-card starters that get their full combo going, and a board that is, for most decks, actually hard to break, but they falter against very, very specific things. We're going to quickly go over the Lupine weekly version of the deck, as we use a custom ban list tailored for the $50 format, and once that is done, I will also show you the TCG Legal version of this deck that you could take to your own locals and play there should you'd like. Let's go over the deck. So what we are actually attempting to do on our board is set up a card called Flowering Etoile, the Melodious Magnificate. Basically speaking, we can banish any number of Melodious cards that we control, and then return to the hand an equal number of cards our opponent controls, non-targeting. This thing is absolutely insane. Also, at the end of the turn, we get all the cards we banished back. So it is kind of a permanent compulse as many times as we'd like, as long as we can keep ourselves alive, which a lot of the other cards in our deck are capable of doing. Our main combo line consists of one of our, or 9 one-card starters, essentially. We play 3 copies of Refrain, 3 copies of First Movement Solo, and 3 copies of Ostinato. So our Refrain is a Pendulum card that you could have guessed. Its Pendulum effect is you can target a Melodious fusion monster you control and send a Melodious monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, they gain attack equal to the level of that monster. This is relevant for another effect in the deck, not for Refrain itself. When Refrain is normal special summon, however, you can add a Melodious monster from your deck to your hand except itself. This is very important because we want to be adding Couplet. If Couplet is added to your hand except by drawing it for your normal draw, you can reveal this card and special summon a level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your hand or graveyard. Essentially speaking, we will get Refrain onto the board, either by normal summoning it, or by activating First Movement Solo, which, if we control the monsters, we can special summon level 4 lower Melodious, but it locks us into Melodious for the turn. We'll summon Refrain, we'll add Couplet. Couplet will special summon any of the other Melodious cards we happen to have in our hand, as we are running quite a few, and if we don't have one, that doesn't matter, because we will immediately scale it and use its effect to search our deck for a fusion card, which will be Melodious Concerto. Melodious Concerto can special summon a fairy fusion monster from our extra deck, using monster from your hand, field, and or pendulum zones, which is very important, because if Couplet or Refrain is used as fusion material, you can immediately put them back into the pendulum scale. This becomes part of the combo. Usually this will make Baka the Melodious Maestro, which you may have seen be splashed in other decks simply because it's an engine in and of itself. When you control this fusion summon monster, the activated effects of your Melodious fusion monsters cannot be negated. You can only use each effect of the following once per turn. If this is special summon, you can special summon a Melodious monster from your deck, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target a Melodious monster in your graveyard except Baka and special summon it in defense position. Generally speaking, this will special summon Chopina. Chopina can target a light fairy monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and you can't activate monster effects that aren't light for the rest of the turn. Now, that will bring back any of the targets that you pitched earlier, and you will link these off into Bloom Harmonist. Bloom Harmonist, when it is link summoned, you can discard a card and special summon 2 Melodious monsters with different levels from your deck to the zones that this card points to. What you will usually summon off of this really depends on your hand, but you're either summoning Soprano, which is when it is special summoned, you can target a Melodious monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, and then you can fuse once while it's on field, and then either Elegy, which, if this is special summoned, all fairy type monsters you control gain 300 attack, and special summoned Melodious monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Or Aria. While this special summon card is on the field, Melodious monsters you control cannot be targeted by card effects or destroyed by battle. So essentially what our end board wants to look like in the most basic of boards is that we have set up Flowering Etoile together with Elegy and Aria, and then most likely we will also have our Bloom Harmonist on board. All this can be done with one card, be that Ostinato, Refrain, or First Movement Solo, and 2 cards in case we open Couplet and only one other Melodious. Generally speaking, what this gives us is a board that cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect and cannot be targeted, as well as a a compulse for 4. You may think that's not a lot, but let's be honest here. You are going to have to break a board that can non-target remove any threat from the board and has 2 creatures left on the board at least, or 0 if you really wanted to, that cannot be destroyed by battle, card effect, or targeted. That's honestly quite a thing to get over. In addition to this, because of our engine is so ridiculously small, we can run an absolute array of hand traps. We've got Nibiru, we've got Ash Blossom, we've got Ghost Ogre, we have Herald of Orange Lights because everything in this deck is a fairy. We got Drolan Lockbird, we got Effect Veiler, we got Infinite Impermanence. And do keep in mind, because we only really used 1 card to make that, we usually have 2 or 3 left in our hand that are just hand traps. We also play Protection for ourselves, so you can call by the Grave and Cross out Designator, because we are playing a million different hand traps, so we may as well. But it is absolutely insane how consistent this is to get to where you need to go. For our other Melodious that we might need to mention, we're playing 2 Sonata. If we control a Melodious, we can special summon this card from your hand, and while it's special summoned, all fairy monsters gain 500 attack and defense. This actually does come up in order to beat over some boards where we need to go for lethal, so you'd be surprised over how good this actually is. Sometimes it also helps that we can just normal summon any of the quote-unquote bad Melodious cards, like Canon, Aria, or Soprano if we don't have anything else, and we can special summon a Sonata to go into our Bloom Harmonist, and that way start doing something, in case we brick on hand traps or whatever we might do. And then we're also playing Canon, the Melodious Diva is also not really one of the best ones. If we control a Melodious monster, we can special summon this again, just like Sonata, and once per turn, you can target a Melodious monster you control and change its battle position. This comes up in OTK lines for the most part, because all of our mega special summons like Bloom Harmonist special summons everything in the fence position, so we can actually use Cannon to get some extra damage on board should we need to. Other than that, our only other real support cards is Ostionato. If we control no monsters, we can fusion summon 1 Melodious monster from our extra deck using 2 monsters from our hand and or deck as material. This is just an in-house branded fusion, essentially. It's pretty freaking good. Also, during the end phase, we get to destroy the fusion summon monster by this effect, and if we do, all the materials we use as fusion summons in graveyard can special summon all of them. We don't need to do that because we're just going to be summoning Baka off of this, and Baka will set us up regardless. So, Ostionato is the best starter that we have, and it's absolutely no question about it. This deck is very consistent in what it wants to do, but most of the time we're also going to be locked into Melodious. We've already gone over Etoile and Baka, but we'll go over the other 3 that we are playing. We're playing 1 copy of Bloom Prima, the Melodious Choir. This is an OTK tool and nothing else. It requires a Melodious Maestra and 1 or more Melodious monsters, gains 300 attack for each fusion material used, and it can make a second attack during the battle phase. And if this fusion summon card is sent to the graveyard, we can target Melodious in our graveyard and add it to your hand. This is just for the odd occasions where we need to OTK and we can't do it otherwise. It doesn't come up that often, but it's also 36 cents, so it's kind of worth playing. We're playing 2 Shiberta, which is one of the other cards we can end our board on. Once while face up on the field, you can target 3 cards in any graveyard and banish them, and if you do, this gains 200 attack for each. Do keep in mind that we can tag it out using Etoile, and then it gets to continuously remove 3 cards from the graveyard. It's pretty good. One of my favorite cards, however, is Bloom Diva, the Melodious Choir. This cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects just innately, but also we take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. If this card battles a special summoned monster, after damage calculation, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between the original attack of that opponent's monster and this card, and if you do, destroy that opponent's monster. This is essentially a worse version of Avramex, all intents and purposes, but this thing comes up a lot. Just being able to ignore the setup that we have with Elegy and Aria and just put it into 1 card is incredibly strong. More specifically so, for Etoile's second effect. If this face-up fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, and that is leaves the field in any way, by the way, you can special summon a Melodious monster from your deck or extra deck, except it. We will just summon out Bloom Diva and sit on it, and force our opponent to also deal with this thing that can't be destroyed by battle with a special summoned monster. It's pretty good. It does still die to things like Imperm, but hey, it's decent. Or not Imperm, because it can't be targeted. You get what I mean. If you can negate it somehow, it usually dies to that. Other than that, we are just playing a couple of support cards, because again, most of the time we are kind of locked into Melodiouses. We're playing a Baguska, just in case everything really goes to shit. We're playing an Evil Storm Excite Knight. Excite Knight is incredibly good in this deck. If we are very much on the back foot, we can kind of reset the board. We're playing an Underworld Goddess because we're playing a Pendulum deck, so we can kind of flood the board. And we're playing a single Herald of Mirage Lights because we do have a ton of fairy monsters, so we can negate spell traps as a quick effect. In our side deck, we are playing 2 Radiant, 2 Artifact Lancia, 2 Dark Hole, 1 Heavy Storm, because of course we are playing in the Lupine Weekly ban list, 2 Lightning Storm, 2 Dimensional Barrier, 1 Rivalry of Warlords because everything we control is a fairy, 1 Red Reboot, and 2 Solemn Judgment. This deck is, on its core, very simple. This is not a very hard deck to figure out, and it really only has one solid game plan, but we'll see just how good it really is at doing said game plan. Now for the TCG Legal version of this deck list, it doesn't really change all that much. We have simply gone with a simpler hand trap lineup here. We've taken an additional Ash Blossom simply because we could. We've kind of toyed around a little bit with the side deck. Mostly we have removed the Heavy Storm for Harpy's Feather Duster, and we have removed the Red Reboot for an Anti-Spell Fragrance. Also changing the Solemn Judgments for Solemn Strikes. You can still play Solemn Judgment if you really feel like it. It's kind of to your own liking. I prefer Strike in the TCG version because it comes up way more often, and killing your life points by half is dangerous in the current game. So it's really up to you. Not that many changes. The deck will still function exactly the same. It is just the auxiliary things that sort of change. Now, with all that in mind, let's head on over to the duels and see exactly how we went on this week. First duel today, we're playing up against J-Chip from the J-Chip Show, one of the longtime supporters of this channel, and now also a channel member. Welcome aboard, buddy. He is going to be playing Yosenju today, of all things, and our starting hand is absolutely insane. We're going to normal summon Refrain, searching the couplet. Unfortunately, we don't have a summon off a couplet, but that is fine. We're going to scale couplet and activate couplet's effect to start ourselves Melodious Concerto. With Concerto, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fusion summon Baka, which is going to activate Baka and our Pendulum Scales to set them back, as special summon Chopina. We're then going to activate Refrain's effect to send Soprano to the graveyard and activate Chopina's effect to pick it back up to hand. We're then going to Link Summon into our Bloom Harmonist, activating it as Chain Link 1 by pitching the Chopina, activating Baka's effect as Chain Link 2 to special summon, pitching the Soprano, activating Baka in order to special summon back the Chopina, and then activating Concerto's second effect to shuffle it back to the deck and draw a card. We are then going to special summon Aria and Elegy from our deck, which basically means we are now immunized and we are ready to go. We're going to activate Chopina's effect and we're going to pick back up the Soprano. We're then going to Pendulum Summon the Cannon and the Soprano, which will activate Soprano's effect. Soprano will shuffle back one of our Melodiouses, and unfortunately we only really have the fusion card, so we'll shuffle that back. We'll activate its effect in order to fusion summon into Flowering Etoile the Melodious Magnificent, and here we go. Our interactions at this point is that we have a board that cannot be beaten by card effects, they cannot be destroyed by battle, and they cannot be targeted. We can compulse up to 4 cards. They have to be face up, but that rarely matters, as well as a Nibiru, a Ghost Ogre, and a Herald that we unfortunately cannot use, but it is a card in hand they have to be afraid of. We pass the turn to J-Chip, and we'll find out exactly what he's doing with his silly Yosenju build. He's going to immediately hit us with the strongest counter to our deck, Kaijus. If you out Melodious Magnificent using a Kaiju, our board falls very flat. However, it was sent to the graveyard for an opponent's card effect, and we will simply special summon Bloom Diva off of it. He's then going to normal summon Yosenju Kama 1, which brings up Kama 2, and he's going to go for the Utopia double play. This is dangerous, actually, but luckily for us, we open the Ghost Ogre to be able to stop him, which kills the Utopia double, even though he gets himself double or nothing. In doing so, he's going to summon his Jizakiru, and he's going to punch over our Bloom Harmonist, which is protected from battle, so we take 2,000 damage, and he passes turn to us. On this board, we are already lethal, so we're just going to switch everything to attack. We're going to go with the Bloom Diva into the Jizakiru, which is going to activate its effect and burn him for 2,000. We punch him in the face a bunch of times, and that's going to be game number 1 in our favor. We're moving on to game number 2, and our starting hand once again is looking fairly good here. We sided for going second, but unfortunately he made us go first. We're going to do exactly the same thing again. We're going to normal summon Refrain, search Couplet. Couplet is going to activate its effect to summon Aria this time. So now if he actually had a Infinite Impermanence or something, he can't use it. We're going to scale the Couplet, use Couplet to search Concerto. We're, of course, going to activate Concerto, doing the same thing as last game, going into Baka, doing the same chain once again, getting ourselves Chopina onto the board, and we are now immediately going to keep Chopina on the board, once again making us weak to Infinite Impermanence or something, but we are playing on the bet that he doesn't have it. We also have a a way to get into other things if we need to. But we'll go Bloom Harmonist, pitching the Lightning Storm that we're not going to use. We'll use the Baka effect to special summon back the Elegy. Or Aria. These names are confusing me, man. We get Soprano and Elegy from the deck, is what I meant to say. We're going to activate Soprano to shuffle the Baka back. We are going to special summon the Sonata from our hand, which is going to let us fuse into our Flowering Etoile, and we've once again set up the board the same way as before. Unfortunately, we lost a couple of cards in hand here because we didn't have the correct guys to loop around, and we could have theoretically also made Shuberta on this board, but I decided not to because I didn't think it was relevant, so we simply did not. Then Called by the Grave is going to be set, and we're going to pass turn back to J-Ship and hope we don't get Kaijun immediately again. Luckily for us, we don't. He starts with the Pendulum Scale Yosenju Hitot, which places another Hitot. He's then going to change the Pendulum Scale to 3 and 11, so he gets Comma 2 and Comma 3. At this point, we're just immediately going to spin everything off of the board because we do not care. He normal summons the Comma 2 and normal summons the Comma 3, and it's going to punch us in the face, and the reason we did this is because we were afraid of Utopia Double again. He gets Yosenju Sword Sting, which reveals up to 2 Yosenju cards, and pops stuff. Then, at the end of the turn, as Yosenjus are, they have to be returned back to the hand, and we will simply allow him to do that. Everything bounces back except the Pendulum Scale, and we are ready to go with our double Herald of Orange Light. We're going to activate Couplet. He is going to swing off the Yosenju Sword Sting, and he's going to return them both to hand, which really doesn't do anything other than summon a Soprano for us. I don't think he really had anything here, but we'll go to battle, and he'll immediately realize that Yosenju might not have been the best deck to bring, but you know what? He gets a bonus point for bringing back something that I forgot existed, and it was pretty cool, let's be honest. How often do you get to see Yosenju? Game number 2, we're playing up against allegedly Michael. He is Michael, allegedly. And we have a very strange starting hand going first here. We actually have 2 pieces of interaction, one in, of course, Droll and Lockbird, and Herald of Orange Light being able to pitch Refrain and then using first movement solo to get another one. We'll see if that's enough. He is going to special summon Speedroid Terror Top to get Takatomborg to hand, and this seems like the perfect moment to fire off that Droll and Lockbird, so we will. He's then going to go Takatomborg, getting them both into Cherubini, activating Cherubini effect to bin the Goblin Biker Mean Merciless. He's then going to normal summon the Phantom Knight of Torn Scales, activating Torn Scales, throwing the Ancient Cloak, and then going into Bardiche. Since I am actually terrified of what Bardiche can do with a graveyard that looks like this, we are actually going to fire the Herald, pitching the Refrain, and he is simply forced to end his turn, which is very good for us. We draw into Chopina, which is probably the worst possible draw. We needed that to be in the deck, but that's fine. We'll activate First Movement Solo, which will special summon Refrain, and we will activate Refrain's effect to get Couplet. Now, because Couplet was added, we can actually activate Couplet's effect and special summon the Refrain from the graveyard. We'll go for the Couplet. Couplet activates its effect to get into Melodious Concerto, and basically all we have to do here is find lethal. We also hold a cross out just in case he's going to interact with us, so we're just going to do the full combo. Now, unfortunately, because our Chopina is in our hand, we can't actually special summon it off of Baka, so we're kind of stuck doing a really, really weird way of doing this. We're going to go for the Refrain, targeting Baka in order to pitch the Aria. We're going to link off the Baka and now our second Refrain to go into Bloom Harmonist. With Bloom Harmonist, we're going to pitch the Chopina, and then a second Link Chain. We're going to go Baka to special summon back the Chopina that we had stuck in our hand, and Concertable draws a card. In doing that, we're going to bring out 2 different ones this time. We're going for Elegy and Sonata, because we're going for the OTK. We're going to activate Chopina. Chopina's going to add the Aria back to our hand. We're going to activate Soprano to fuse. We decided to go into Etoile here, even though we really didn't need to. We could have gone for just the OTK, but it is better to set up this way, because we are going to Pendulum Summon out the Refrain from our extra deck and the Aria from our hand, which is way more than enough damage to take the game on an empty board. Hand traps are really good, man. What can I say? Game number 2, then. We once again open the absolute cracked hand here. 2 Herald of the Orange Light that we can pitch for any interaction, and a Droll and Lockburn, and a Nibiru on top of a 1-card starter. What else could we possibly have asked for? He's going to pop off and go for the Terror Top play, once again searching Takatomborg, and like goddamn clockwork, we're gonna Droll and Lockbird again. He's gonna go for the Takatomborg, going into Cherubini, pitching the Phantom Knights of Ragged Gloves, activating the gloves to set the cloak, and then just pass turn to us. Unfortunately for us, our only starter is Refrain, and we're going to activate it to be hit by the Fog Blade that he had in hand. This is unfortunate because our Herald doesn't stop this, and we have no way of really interacting with trap cards unless we specifically open something, so we are just going to have to pass our turn there, as he can't attack into our Refrain for the time being. He's going to go for the Cherubini again, pitching the Mean Merciless, and now he's off to the races by activating Reinforcement of the Army to search Torn Scale. Once he has Torscade, he's going to normal summon it to bin 2 cards. He bins the Danger Tsuchinoko from hand and gets a Raider's Wing into the graveyard. He's going to go for the Tsuchinoko to special summon it, and he's going to overlay them for Goblin Biker Big Gabonga. Gamonga's going to activate and search the Dug Charger. I'm pretty sure you've seen the Goblin combo before, but if you haven't, here it is. He's going to activate Mean Merciless, detaching the Phantom Knight Torch Scales in order to special summon itself, and he's going to activate its effect. I don't remember how this works now. Alright, he gets to attach my guy and then gets to special summon Dug Charger. That's how it is. He's going to activate Dug Charger, searching himself Grand Entrance. He activates Grand Entrance to search Boom Mock, detaching 1 to special summon Boom Mock. Now, this is scary, so we blow up the board. He gets a rock instead. He is going to activate the Ancient Cloak, which I'm actually going to fire off the Herald of the Orange Light for, because it scares me to think that he could get 2 level 3s on board. Luckily for me, this is the way that I stop him from doing that, because he can't search the boots to special summon here. He simply sets 2 cards and passes back to us. Our hand is only Elegy, which is really bad, but we do draw into an Infinite Impermanence, so we'll just destroy the token here and set the Imperm. Pass turn. We're hoping that's enough to keep us at least for a turn to find a starter. He gets a Terror Top off the top, which is terrifying, going into Exceed Armor Torpedo. We're going to let Armor Torpedo resolve. He's going to get a card draw, and he's going to go into Armor Fortress. Then he attempts to activate Armor Fortress to search Exceed whatever it is, and we're going to hit it with the Infinite Impermanence because we are scared. He then overlays into Full Knight Armor Dark Lancer anyway, which unfortunately just has 100 more attack than Nibiru, which means he's going to punch us in the face, and it's going to go away. He then activates the Grand Entrance, which allows him to sack off a material, this time Armor Fortress, and gets himself Dug Charger. He then passes turn to us, and we might have a chance because we drew into Couplet. We're going to activate Couplet. Couplet is going to add the Concerto. With Concerto, we're going to activate it, and we're going to fuse into Baka. Now we're off to the races. Baka's going to get to special summon something, and we get Couplet back into the scale. Not that it matters. We're going to get Chopina. Chopina from the deck is going to allow us to pick a card back up, and we're going to pick back up Refrain. We're going to normal summon Refrain in order to go a thing, but unfortunately Refrain is going to get Ash Blossom, which kind of sucks. Now that we don't have a card in our hand, we can't actually use Bloom Harmonist, because it has to be used on the Link summon, so we just have to go for the Baka and Concerto effect. We draw ourselves into Heavy Storm, which is absolutely insane here as we get Chopina back. We're going to activate Chopina to get a card back to our hand, and we need it to be any card, it doesn't matter. We're going to fire off the Heavy Storm, which is the best top deck we could have possibly gotten, because we hit a Phantom Knight's rank up Magic Force, as well as Time Thief Retrograde. With that, we're going to overlay for our second Bloom Harmonist, and now we do have a card in hand, so we are going to pitch it in order to get Soprano and Sonata. That activates the Soprano effect in order to get Elegy back to our hand. We are then going to choose to Fusion Summon immediately into Etoile. We then get Refrain back into the scale because it was in the extra deck when we Fusion Summon something. We're going to bin the Aria just so it's set up for next turn. We're going to go over the full Armored Dark Knight Lancer, and we at least have interactions on the board. He's going to go for the Fogblade in order to special summon the Raider's Knight. He's going to go for the, the Torn Scale in order to pitch an Effect Veiler, which actually kind of surprises me here, why he would pitch the Effect Veiler, because that is his way of completely breaking my board, but I digress. He gets himself a Cloak into the graveyard, and he's gonna, shocker, fire off the Cloak to get Boot. This puts us in a really awkward position as to when to fire our Etoile now, because the last card in his hand is Dug Charger. Dug Charger is going to get Grand Bash, which makes everything super annoying. He's going to go to Levailleur, and at this point I decide now is as good of a time of any. We are just going to tag out 2 guys, and then unfortunately I forget that Boom Mock is actually a quick effect. So that's unfortunate. We're going to let him keep the Boom Mock and the Rainer's Wing and hope that that's enough to stop him. He goes for the Grand Bash, he normal summons the other card that he got. He gets the Phantom Knight Fogblade back, which is unfortunate. Going to Grand Bash into Crazy Beast eating our Refrain from the Pendulum Scale, punching us in the face for 3,000 and then making Zeus. That's bad. We got all our cards back at the very least, and that is something. We are just going to force him to use the Zeus here. We're then going to choose to tag out the Flowering Etoile, which is going to bait out the Fogblade, which is exactly what we want to happen. This is going to send everything off of the board, which is going to activate Etoile in order to summon Baka? Yes, we actually have a play here that is not going into Bloom Diva because I think we can extend further. We are going to go into Baka. This is going to activate the Couplet in our scales, and we're going to choose the special summon Refrain. Refrain is going to activate and is going to add Couplet to our hand, which is going to activate the Couplet so we can special summon a Soprano. Soprano is going to activate, which allows us to pick another card back up, and we're going to pick back up Aria. Now we're going to activate the couplet effect in order to start the concerto from the deck. We're going to activate said concerto to make another flowering étoile, which is going to activate the baka to special summon back you-know-who, the second étoile. Yeah, there's no restriction on this. You could just bring them both back. We now have both scales as well, so we are able to special summon the Sonata and then activate the Soprano in order to make Schuberta. Schuberta is going to activate her effect, targeting 3 cards in the graveyard. We are going to target the Dug Charger, Boom Mock, and Torn Scale, to which he's going to chain the Fog Blade in order to get back the Torn Scale. At this point, we are going to Pendulum Summon, and now our entire board is immune to battle, card effects, and destruction by card effects, and we're just going to pass turn. We also have access to a Compulse 5, should we really feel like it. He manages to get himself into Winder by specially summoning Crazy Beast and then going into his favorite guy, the Torn Scale. Not Torn Scale, what the hell is he called again? Rusty Bardiche. I can't believe I forgot that. Unfortunately for him, though, we just activate a Twal in response and we're able to spin everything back to his deck. He scoops them up, and we take round number 2. That was a freaking insane duel, but Melodious has a shocking amount of grind game, apparently. Now, this is usually where we start to fall off, but we're going up against Dan, who is on the weirdest Cyberse pile of all time. He is going to start us off here by normal summoning Dormouse, banishing Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat activates its effect to special summon itself, and then activating its own effect to banish a Malice card and draw 2. At this point, we're going to fire off the Droll and Lockburn and hope for the best. He's going to link off into Link Decoder, activating Baldrake in order to banish the Dormouse, which of course is going to activate Dormouse to special summon itself, and then he's going to go into White Binder. This is going to activate the effect of Link Decoder to special summon it back. He's then going to go for the White Binder, setting himself MTP07, and then go for the Gatshiri ad Ignister somehow, and going into Transcode Talker. He's going to Gatshiri here to protect the Transcode Talker from effect, but we are going to chain the Infinite Impermanence on it before that happens to ensure he doesn't get any further. He then sets 2 cards, passes back to us, and we have a goddamn hand. We are going to normal summon Refrain, activate Refrain's effect to search Couplet. Couplet is then going to activate, which we are going to use to special summon Aria to protect ourselves. We are going to scale the Couplet, activate Couplet for Concerto, and you've probably seen this before. We're going to activate Concerto, we're going to fusion summon into Baka. Baka is going to activate its effect, we're going to get our scales back, but unfortunately he flips Malice TB11, which I forget is the one that only special summons a guy, which is perfectly fine. We set up our combo again. Unfortunately here, I have the zones really blocked up by Transcode Talker, which is very unfortunate, so we're going to have to do a roundabout way of doing this. We're going to special summon back the Chopina from Baka, and then we're going to overlay and overlay again into a Bloom Harmonist that we can actually activate. Unfortunately, he is going to fire the Baldrake here, which is very annoying, but we are going to chain the Herald of Orange Light to get rid of it. We get our Soprano onto the board. We have our Elegy on the board. We're going to add back the Aria. We're going to Chopina for another card. We're going to add back the Sonata. We are going to attempt to kill here. We're going for the Étoile. We're going to get to pitch a card and increase its attack just a little bit. We're going to special summon the Sonata and the Aria, and we are just going to go battle. We are barely not lethal here. We can't really do much else, but we are protected on the board, and we have our Compulse. It should be enough. MTP is going to add Chessy Cat, and since he doesn't control a link, it doesn't do anything else. He's going to Signet Mining for the Microcoder, which is very, very interesting. Normal summoning the, what is this thing called again? It goes very quickly. It's the Firewall Defensor. Yeah, he wants to set up and try to go into his link combo once again, but we simply activate our Flowering Étoile to bounce it back to our hand, and that's his normal summon gone, and that means we take game number 1. Game number 2, and, I mean, Droll and Lockbird is glued to our hand this week, what can I say? He's going to go for the Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat is going to banish Dormouse to special summon itself and draw 2, and we're just going to chain the Droll and Lockbird once again and hope he doesn't do anything. He's going to banish another Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat's going to special summon itself, and this is just 3 Link monsters off of a single normal summon. Jesus Christ. Link Decoder is going to come out, and he's going to get rid of Link Decoder from Malice Q. White Binder. He is going to do the same thing again, bring out Link Decoder and banish a card with White Binder, because now my Droll is dead, I guess, and then set MTP07. He's then going to set 1 card and pass turn to us, which I guess is okay. We're going to go for the Dark Hole, screw his entire board, and we open the first movement solo, which is insane. We're going to go for Refrain. We're going to activate Refrain's effect in order to add Couplet to our hand, and you've seen this before. Stop me if you've heard me before. We're going to special summon the Sonata here, and we're going to set the Couplet. We're going to activate Couplet for the Concerto, and we're going to activate the Concerto and be met with our biggest fear, Dimensional Barrier. We don't have a way to stop that. We did actually side into Dimensional Barrier for Crossout here, but unfortunately that did not happen. So we are locked out of fusions this turn, so we have to try and find the kill otherwise, which is possible, but it's really hard. We'll go for the Blue Harmonist to special summon Aria and Chopina, to which he gets a Sea Archiver onto the board, I guess. We'll go for the Chopina. We'll get ourselves into the Sonata, and what I was hoping to do here was set up either Excite Knight to try and blow him up, or set up Bagooska, but I realized he's playing a Link deck, so Bagooska would do literally nothing. We're just gonna punch as hard as we possibly can, which isn't really very hard, but we do have Aria protecting us from battle and card effect, so hopefully that's enough. He is going for the Signet Mining into Microcoder, which is essentially full goddamn combo, but he also adds himself a Dormouse just because he can. Goes for the Dormouse here. Dormouse is going to banish Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat is going to special summon itself, and then he links off using Microcoder, going into Transcode Talker. He gets himself the Signet, it's not Signet, what is it? Signet Codec. Transcode Talker is going to special summon back any Link monster, brings back the White Binder. White Binder gets to banish a card. Banishes all the cards. Gets himself the Dormouse back. White Binder then sets TB11. And we're off to the races. TB11 banishes the White Mouse in order to special summon on the Dormouse, then White Binder comes back because of its own effect. Dan is burning himself here. Protect Code Talker brings out, that it's a card that I've never seen before, but apparently triggers the Signet Codec to search Firewall Defensor. He then pitches the Dotscaper. Dotscaper was pitched, so special summons itself, and he has the Gachiri in hand, targeting the Dotscaper. Uses both of those for the Splash Mage. Splash Mage then summoning back the Cat to bring in Heat Soul. Heat Soul is going to trigger the Signet Codec again to search Salamangrate Gazelle, and this is just Signet Pile dot combo. He's then going to go into Firewall Dragon, the old school one, which is cool. Spinning back a bunch of guys, special summoning a bunch of guys, and at this point, I've basically lost myself. I went to the bathroom when he did on this, because it's just a lot of Link bullshit. He ends up on a Firewall Dragon that can now attack twice, thanks to Update Jammer, to which he is actually able to power it up to 6k thanks to Xcode Talker, which is enough to just punch over Bloom Harmonist, as we have no way of getting rid of it. He punches us in the face twice, and unfortunately, this is one of the locations where Aria is a bit of a detriment. If we have no way of getting rid of our Link monster in attack position, they can theoretically just beat over us, and that's unfortunate. Being locked out of fusions in this deck is really bad. So we're going to game 3. And the game 3 it is. Our hand is okay. We open first movement solo, which is the only reason we can play the game. Refrain is going to activate. We're going to search ourselves Couplet. And at this point, he is going to do the funny business of activating Droll and Lockbird against us, but we're just better. Crossout Designator, hitting the Droll and Lockbird, no funny business for you. We are popping off and you are not stopping us. Couplet is going to search ourselves Concerto. You've heard me say that a bunch of times already, and it's not going to stop now. We make ourselves Backup. We are then going to activate all the effects in Chain, getting Chopina onto the board, and stop me if you've heard this one before. Pitching everything we need and pick it back up everything we need. We get ourselves Bloom Harmonist. We're pitching a bunch of cards. We are drawing cards. We're summoning cards. You know the drill. We draw Austin Auto, which doesn't do anything here, but we get ourselves the lock online. We'll go for the Chopina. We'll add back the Soprano. We'll normal summon Soprano. We'll go into Flowering its Wall, and we'll pass turn on that. He goes for the Signet Mining, drawing himself the Chessy Cat by pitching the Firewall Defensor. Chessy Cat is going to give up. There is the Dormouse. Dormouse is going to special summon itself. Dormouse is then going to send a Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat is going to special summon itself off of its own effect, and whoop-de-doo, there's the White Binder. White Binder is going to banish a bunch of cards in our graveyard. We don't really care at this point. White Binder then also sets TB11. TB11 allows him to tribute the cat, get himself a mouse. That brings the White Binder back. He then goes into Transcode Talker, and at this point I decide, okay, enough is enough, we're getting rid of the Transcode Talker. We're just bouncing Bloom Harmonist and the Transcode Talker, and he's off to do whatever he wants. We are now sitting on a board here, which is essentially very hard to beat over. They are undestroyable battle. He needs piercing damage. And if he does manage to destroy a Toile at some point, we can bring up Bloom Harmonist and sit on that. Baldrake gets special summon. He goes into battle, attempts to attack, forgets that he can't destroy anything, goes for the Signet Codec, sets a card, and passes back to us, and we get our guys back, and it's time to murder this man. Switching everything into attack position, we are just going to go in for the battle. He's going to get for the Malice TB, which is going to special summon a Dormouse. But what do you know? We are not locked into using this. Like, we have an attack declared right now, and we can still chain a Toile. We're going to chain a Toile, pick the Dormouse back up to hand, and that is enough to kill Dan on the crackback, and we take round number 3. So for our last round this week, we are actually in a replay battle. Lardax is back once again and is playing his Unchained silly deck once more that we got absolutely annihilated by last time. We're gonna see how that goes. It goes for the Dark Contract of the Gate, getting himself DDD, Vice King, Requiem, activating Requiem, to which we decide to chain the Snow Ogre and Ghost Rabbit, hoping that killing Requiem is enough. Unfortunately, it's not, because he has the Triple Tactic Thrust up there, which gets him Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. Then he goes for the Arama, popping the Unchained, gets himself Shavara. Shavara then links off into Yama. That gets him the Sarama. Dude, we've lost to this before. We know this. Escape of the Unchained gets hit, and my goodness, here comes Sarama. Sarama's going to bring back the Chamber of the Unchained, pop the Escape. Escape's going to get Shiyama. They're going to link off into the Rage. They're going to pop themselves and do a bunch of crud. He gets the Shavara back. He can now activate the Shavara, popping the guy. That brings out another guy, and my god, destroying things is fun. High King Caesar is the end board at the very least, and that's all we kind of expected. Our hand is strange because it is theoretically all gas, and also absolutely no gas because we didn't open the specific gas that we needed. We go for the Couplet effect, and the Couplet actually does get to resolve here, getting us Concerto, which is good. We're going to go for the Concerto. He is going to chain, or rather not chain block, he's going to activate High King Caesar to negate it, which we expected. Shavara is then going to bring Escape of the Unchained, because it was sent to the graveyard, to which we are going to get Soprano. We're then going to get Soprano and Cannon, which is also going to get negated, which we expected. This chains off into the Soul. We can get another guy on board, which is Bloom Harmonist, as our final point of interaction, and unfortunately, the Unchained Soul of Rage kind of ends our journey here. There were another few ways we might have been able to do this, but the High King Caesar being able to negate twice is really, really bad. We had no way around that, considering he can just loop resources and just run us out of cards, because we didn't have what we actually needed. Unfortunately, we'll have to go to game 2. And to game 2 we went, with a hand that looks significantly better than the other one. We're going to go for the first movement solo, which is going to summon the Refrain, and we've seen this combo a bunch of times before. Unfortunately, we actually get hit by an Infinite Impermanence here, but thanks to us just being better, we have the cross out for it. We're going to cross out, and we're going to get the Couplet onto the board. Couplet is, of course, going to special summon the Aria here to prevent that from ever happening again. We're going to go for Couplet, activating Couplet in order to search Concerto, and stop me if you've heard this one before. Concerto is going to activate. We're going to bring out Backup. This is going to do our Chain Link 3 of choice. Put everything back in the scale, summoning Shapina, and here we go. Link them off for the Bloom Harmonist. We will pitch the Herald of World's Light we can't use at the moment, simply because we can. Solemn Judgment is funny. We're going to special summon everything onto the board. We're going to activate the Soprano to pick back up the Backup. We're going to activate, we're going to activate the, God, the names, man. Shopina in order to pick back up Herald, because that's just something we can do. Ending on Flowering Etoile, Aria, and Elegy with a set Solemn Judgment. At this point, he's going to fire off the Heavy Storm, which, yeah, sure. Going for the Tour Guide here. We're going to allow the Tour Guide to resolve because there is Fiendish Rhino Warrior. Going for the Yama. Yama is one of the ones that I'm really scared of, but he does add a card to hand here, which is very good because we can fire off that silly, silly Drolan Lockbird. We're going to do exactly that. Fuck you, Drolan Lockbird. He sets the Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. He's going to go for the Aruha here. Aruha can special summon Shiyama. Then at this point, we decide, okay, enough is enough. Everything goes back to hand. You can stop right then and there. And he scoops them up because he is unable to activate any of the other Unchained effects because he's locked by Drolan Lockbird. We would get our guys back in the next end phase and simply punch over him for game. Very cool. Go into game number 3. Final game then. We're forced to go second here, and our hand is looking pretty good, honestly. Not only do we have the Lightning Storm to deal with anything on board, we have ourselves a Hard Negate and a 1-card starter. I don't think it can get better than this. Dark Beckoning Beast is going to search Opening of the Spirit Gates, which is going to be activated to search the Chaos Summoning Beast. I never remember which one's which. Ooh. Chaos Summoning Beast gets summoned, and he links both of them off into Unsealed Yama. We're going to hit the Yama with our orange light here because we don't want him to search Shavara. That's probably the worst thing that can happen. Opening of the Spirit Gates is going to get hit. He's going to bin the Rhino Warrior, so unfortunately he already had a way into it. There's the Shavara, as we saw. Shavara is going to set the Chamber of the Unchained. He is going to activate the Dark Contract with the Gate, which gets him Vice King Requiem, which can then pop the Dark Contract with the Gate. Super unfortunate. He's going to do exactly that to special summon itself, and then overlay into Deus King Machinex, which currently is just a big guy. He then pops the Abominable Chamber. Chamber is then going to activate Yama to special summon back the Shavara and special summon Sarama. At this point, he's going to overlay for the Blue Dog. He's going to set back Chamber. He's going to use, or rather pop the Rage to add Sharvara to hand. Sharvara is then going to activate, popping the Sarama, which is going to bring back Shayama, which is of course going to overlay for High King Caesar, and he passes turn. Luckily for us, we have drawn into the most overpowered card we could have possibly drawn into. He also put his Hive Wave King Caesar in attack position. We are immediately firing that Lightning Storm and killing that Hive Wave Caesar like it's nothing. This unfortunately will activate the Sharvara, but there's not much we can do about it. Except there is. We're going to fire off Called by the Grave, targeting the Sharvara, as we don't care about him adding the Dark Contract, but we do care about Sharvara setting a trap card. At this point, we are going to fire Ostionado. Ostionado is going to bring out Bach, and I think this is the first time we've actually gotten to use the best card in this archetype. We bin Refrain and Soprano for this. This will activate Bacchus effect to special summon back Chopina. Chopina is about to activate when he chains Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. This is going to destroy, most likely, Chopina. But we say, hell no, brother! Red Reboot! So, he gets stopped from using his Abominable Chamber, and he sets himself a Dimensional Barrier, but it does not matter because we're going for the kill this turn. Chopina is going to bring back Refrain to our hand. We're going to normal summon the Refrain. Refrain is going to give us the Couplet, and we are goddamn off to the races. We're going to activate the Couplet effect to special summon Soprano. Soprano gets its own effect, of course, to spin back another card, in which we're going to spin back another Couplet. Couplet is going to search us Concerto, and we already know he can't use traps this turn, and he doesn't have a hand trap this time, buddy. We're going to go into Bloom Diva with our Hard Fusion here, which is a bit strange, but you'll see where this is going in a bit. We're going for the Refrain effect binning the Sonata. We get ourselves a Bloom Harmonist, we pitch the other Couplet that we have in hand, and we get the Baka effect, and we get to draw a card. Everything is hunky-dory. We also draw the Aria here, which isn't necessarily great, but it happens, I suppose. We'll activate the Chopina once again. Chopina's going to add us the Aria. Not the Aria, the Sonata. We're going to go into Etoile. Then we're going to Pendulum Summon the Aria and the Sonata, and we are going to battle. We're going to use Bloom Diva attacking into Machinex, which is going to deal 2,000 damage, and then use everything else we've got and absolutely wreck house. I don't think there was a singular better hand that we could have drawn in this game to out the entire board. It was almost unfair. Like, he had so many points of interactions that would stop us, and we literally drew an answer for every single one of them. Does that mean the deck is very good? I don't know. Does it? I'm just going to chalk this one down to, this was just us finally having the heart of the cards that we needed, and we actually win locals this week on Melodious. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I didn't actually expect this deck to be able to do as much as it did. I knew that Melodious was a fairly consistent archetype in its own right, but lacked kind of the board presence to really keep up with the modern game. But in this format, for $50, I'm stumped. We managed to put up a fight in every single game that we played, including the ones where we lost, just by how goddamn consistent these melodic fairies are. I'm shocked. I've never really given the Melodious any mind whatsoever, but this kind of went hard. I'm gonna be honest, I actually really liked this deck. But as with all decks, we are going to rate it on the scale right now. Now, in terms of power, we're going to give it a very weird 7. Our actual board is not entirely that strong because it's generally always going to look the same way. We are going to have an invincible, quote-unquote, invincible board. Can't be targeted, cannot be destroyed by card effects or battle, and we have a compulse for 4. Sometimes we can also banish cards from the graveyard in Shuberta, but that only comes up sometimes if we really want to do it. But that board is actually surprisingly hard to break. Who could have guessed? Not only for the decks in the Lupine Weekly, but in my testing in the actual TCG, there's a lot of decks that just cannot do that. Like, if they can't target to negate you, and they can't punch over you, they just can't deal with you. Like, what is Blue Eyes going to do unless they get exactly Tyrant Dragon, which you can theoretically stop long before they do? It's very, very interesting. The problem with the power, of course, comes in the fact that we are very telegraphed in where we're going. We're trying to set up the same board every time, essentially. So in games 2 and 3, if people bring in a Kaiju, generally speaking, we're going to have a much harder time. But that still doesn't detract from the fact that if they do actually out Etoile, they then have to deal with Bloom Diva, which is annoying in its own right. I'm shocked at this deck, I'll be honest. This is a pretty good one. Solid 7 for power. Consistency is the highest we've ever had. We're giving it a 9. Every single goddamn card in this deck gets you somewhere. Almost. We have so many one-hand starters. We have Ostinato that gives us the full combo. Refrain that gives us the full combo. First Movement Solo, which gives us Refrain that gives us the full combo. Even if we open Couplet, if we have any other diva in our hand, we've got full combo. That's 12 one-card starters right off the bat. And even then, let's say all of that fails and we only open at Aria, Canon, Soprano, and Sonata, we can still full combo because any Melodious together with Sonata or Canon goes into Bloom Harmonist, which is full combo. Every single goddamn card in this deck is essentially live. There is 2 cards that are downright bricks that you do not want to see, and that is Chopina and Elegy. These 2 are very hard to bring out to the board to do anything with. If you draw Elegy halfway through your combo, it doesn't matter. If you draw Chopina, that's generally very bad because your only real discard is Bloom Harmonist, and then you kind of have to do that and it gets a little bit weird, but everything's live. Everything's gas. I don't think we had a single game today where we had a hand that couldn't do anything unless we were actively stopped. This thing is insane. Very good consistency. You're doing something every game. Resistance, I'm also giving it a very strong 8. While we did lose a game to Lardax because of his board was incredibly strong against us special summoning specifically. There might have been ways we could have gone around that with a better hand than what we had, but it was still very close. He did have to use everything to essentially out us that time. We are still very good at playing around hand traps, even if cards like Ostinato get hit or First Movement Solo get hit. Everything is still a one-card starter, essentially. So if they stop one of these 3, which they typically do, you usually have ways of doing your combo anyway. The worst hit they can do is if they somehow hit Bloom Harmonist. That one sucks real bad. But as you saw a lot of the times, we were able to special summon Aria way before that, so they couldn't change something like Infinite Impermanence on it, because they can't target it. It's stupidly good. Like, it's really, really good. And even in the case where they do have something, sometimes we're just sitting on Herald of the Orange Light or a Crossout to stop them. We have so many ways of counteracting our opponents trying to counteract us that it just goes full fucking circle and we're playing the game the way we want to. Sideboarding in this deck is also getting a solid 8 for one very particular reason. Look at the amount of hand traps we're playing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 hand traps in this list. And you could potentially shove more in there. This means that we essentially have 15 cards in our deck that can go out at any time. That, in order to specialize ourselves into beating other decks that we need to do. This is why we're playing stuff like Lancia, which would have been really good against Dan, and we did side into it, we just didn't see it. Kaijus to deal with a board that we otherwise can't deal with. Board Breakers, and just Board Breakers aplenty. Dimensional Barrier in case we are going second and think that they are going to swap into this, so we can cross out Designator and just laugh in their face. And other cards as you see fit. This means you can essentially make a side deck of absolutely anything that counters your local meta, and it will work here. There is no stopping you. Run whatever you want. The reason we're not getting a 10 or higher here is because we have a very, very one-sided game plan. When our opponent knows this, we're also very weak to going second and... second. I was about to say second and third, but I meant game 3. You know what I mean. The problem here really becomes is that, yes, we can adapt our deck to our opponent, but they can also very easily adapt their deck to ours. We kind of have to think about that when we're constructing a side deck for certain matchups, but it's still really, really good. Lastly, fun. Now, usually when we rate fun, people don't really realize that we're rating fun for both us playing the deck and our opponents playing against us. The reason I'm putting this as high on fun as it is because, yes, this deck is very, it's one note. You're doing the same thing all the time. Oh, wow, I just did a music joke, I realized. Jeez. It's very one track. Like, you're doing the same combo every time, and that's kind of your deal. However, it's very fun to get to interact with that board for both you and your opponent. Your opponent always has perfect information on the board. They know they can't destroy the things by battle or card effect, they know they can't be targeted, and they know you have a compulse. They know exactly what you've got, and then they can amount for whatever hand traps you may have in hand. Breaking that board is a fun experience for your opponent because they're not looking at something impossible. They're not staring down 11 negates and being like, yeah, break this, asshole. No, they see the board, they know exactly what resources they have, and they can try and plan a way around it. It's very fun playing against this deck for that reason. And playing it is obviously fun because you get to fire off whatever you want. You're sitting on a landmine that essentially ends your opponent outright in certain scenarios. I'm gonna be honest, this deck gets a massive 40 points, being the first A-rank deck of the series, and I'll be real here, if you have $50 to spend and you want to get into Yu-Gi-Oh! And, like, play in your locals and actually stand a fair chance against anything, this might be the deck. I'm gonna be honest here. I play Dark World for the most part when I actually play the physical card game, but I might actually have to buy this. This is really fun. I can't believe I'm saying that. I woefully underestimated Melodious. This deck's awesome. Go out and give it a go. Check the deck code in the description for the TCG Legal version and give it a spin. It's super cool. And the best part about this deck is, if you've got a budget that is much higher than $50, just change the hand traps to whatever you want, man. You can play whatever. It doesn't matter. You want to play Fuvalos and all of these expensive-ass guys? Do it. They fit right in. Oh, no, I really like this one. This one was awesome. I'm super happy I gave this one a go. I was skeptical on the wheel. Skepticism is gone. But for now, we are going to go over to the wheel and we're going to decide next week's deck. Alright then, welcome back to the wheel. Now, something we need to note here is that we actually have two new channel members, which we're going to thank today, which is Parfuki and J-Chip. They have both added 2 decks onto the wheel, one of them being Memento, and the other one being Monarch. Both archetypes I have not really played, and I'm gonna be honest here, I don't really want to spin. I don't want to learn how to play them. Holy shit, Memento looks difficult. But they are still here because I'm a kind little guy and I keep my promises. If you would like a deck on the wheel, you can also become a channel member. Click the join button down below and you could see your deck on this show one day. Speaking of which, I have also personally added a couple of decks. Most notably, we've added Crystal Beast, Paleozoic, which is one of the decks that I actually wanted to play at some point but never really got around to. And I believe Dynamorphia is also new. It might have been there before, I don't remember, but it's there now. We're gonna give it a spin. We're gonna click a bunch of times here. Let's go, my face. And we are playing... Oh, now this is an interesting one. ABC is my pet deck. I absolutely adore this freaking thing. ABC has been my deck of choice whenever playing with friends or anything else for the longest time now. Getting to bring it into Lupine Weekly is going to be interesting, because this is a deck that people have actually seen me play before. I'm fairly competent on this one. Not great, mind you, but fairly competent. We'll see where this goes. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and tune in next week, where we build ourselves a death machine.